أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن سادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته
وعليكم
and,
السلام ورحمة الله.
and welcome to this week's edition of the Black Imams Roundtable. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in and invite your friends. Well, alhamdulillah, every time we come together, we try to keep our word to one another and to support each other, to support ourselves in our own endeavors. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, you will see various ways in which you can support this platform. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Zelle. Just put Roundtable or BIRT, Black Imams Roundtable, in the comment in your donation. If everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot. Our goal, the bare minimum, before we leave up out of here, $500. It's not really a lot, but if everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot. Tag your friends. Tag your friends. Put this video on your page. So as you can see by the title, oh, just in case you're new here, and just in case you're not looking at the screen with our names on it, I'm Naeem Abdullah, Imam of Masjid al-Mu'min, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Above me, on the screen and in status, are my two beloved friends and colleagues. Imam Faheem Lee, Quba School and Islamic Center, Camden, New Jersey, aka the Imam of the Boom Bap. And if you don't know what that means, it ain't for you. And my brother Imam Amin Muhammad, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City, aka the Boardwalk Bully. Imam Otis. The one about whom fake narratives are always being generated. Well, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So tonight we're talking about navigating differences, a path to unity, which obviously is a divergent from what we've been talking about. But what we've been talking about is a long topic, so we putting in little breaks here and there. So, what inspired tonight's discussion? I'll tell you what inspired tonight's discussion. The Black Imams Roundtable was minding their business, doing what they normally do, just teaching and trying to wake people up, not trolling nobody, not throwing shade at anybody, not attacking anybody individually, not doing any of that stuff. And then someone made a video. And in that video, that person, that Muslim brother, accused our Imam, Imam Amin Muhammad, of making takfir, calling individual people kafirs. He accused him of even going against the teachings of his own teachers. He accused them of creating disunity. And well, alhamdulillah, Imam Amin last night responded to those accusations. He was called out by name in the video. He responded to it. So today we're going to not really talk about just only focusing on the video that was made, but we're going to talk about navigating the differences, a path to unity. We're going to be specific and general at the same time. So we may refer to what sparked tonight's conversation here and there, but we're also trying to talk about the topic of unity. And usually when we talk about things, it's good to define them, because if I asked all of you, do you want unity? I'm pretty sure that everyone here would say yes. But if I asked you, what is unity? I'm pretty sure I will get a whole list of different answers. So just to lay down a little bit of a foundation, I want to mention what many of the scholars call, or how they define, unity or ijtima', the coming together. And they use as a foundation of their definition the hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said, "La yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibba li akhihi ma yuhibbu li nafsihi." That none of you believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. And that's a well-known hadith. I'm pretty sure we all have heard that hadith before. This hadith and its subject is mentioned in the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd al-Khayrawani, and it's expounded upon even further in the commentary upon the Risala, the well-known one, Al-Fawaqid Dawani. And he mentions that to befriend or to have unity among the believers means that when you meet them, you show them love and avoid what creates aversion or differences. And the word that he uses is gil, like gilla, something that will put like a barrier between you and another believer. And hasad, which is like jealousy, envy. And he said it means to not just come together physically, the coming together of the bodies, but it's the coming together of the bodies with sincere affection, sincere affection. So when Muslims come together, it's just not us being physically together, doing the same thing and being in the same space, but our hearts have to be united. And if the hearts are not united, then nothing you or I can do can make us come together outwardly. So unity is in fact at the heart level wanting for your brother what you want for yourself, from good. Obviously, we got some of us that, a little bit off. We don't want good for ourselves, right? We're not talking about that one-off situation. We're talking about most normal people. They want good for themselves. They want Jannah for themselves. They want everything that's good in this life and the next life for themselves. The person who really seeks unity, he wants the exact same thing for his Muslim brother. That's unity. When you love someone, unifying with them is easy. When there's something in your heart against that person, you can have every excuse in the world to be united, and it won't happen. You can have the same deen. Inside of the same deen, you can have the same creed, same fiqh, same spiritual path, follow the same exact sheikhs. But if your hearts are divided, you will not be unified. So a lot of times people wonder, why can't we be united? There's something happening at the heart level. If you feel motivated to attack someone, why, out of all of the issues that you disagree with, why did you pick that issue and those people who are espousing that issue? Why them? And why did you have to be the one to say something? Because there's something at the heart level. It's something at the heart level. We can't see what's in each other's heart. That's a sir, that's a secret. But the tongue and the actions, they are signposts, they are interpreters of what's really taking place in the heart. So that's something that we need to take serious account of. And I'm going to try to keep my introduction short. So I think I'll bow out. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين استغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. I pass it to the Imam of the boom bap.
Hey, the way you bowed out just now, this is like the second part of the khutbah, man. You know what I mean? You coming back with something else.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
most indubitably.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. So I'd like to welcome you all to tonight's broadcast of the Black Imams Roundtable. We've already been introduced. You know who we are. You know how we get down. You know how we play. You know how we do it. Alhamdulillah. So we're here for another rendition of this podcast. We thank you all for joining us tonight. We ask Allah, who's dependent with the Allah, to descend barakah on this gathering and make it beneficial for all those who are attending live and those who may watch this later, inshallah ta'ala. And so just as a reminder, please like and share this podcast, and also be sure to, to drop that bread, put something on it, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah, who's dependent with the Allah, double and multiply your reward. So tonight, as you know by the title, that we're talking about navigating differences and how will that be achieved on the path to unity? Because many times we talk about unity and everybody wants to be unified. Everybody wants to be together. And we certainly don't want to see any kind of dissension or anything that indicates divisiveness or splitting. As Muslims, as many problems that we have in the world, with Muslims, being, persecuted around the world, with Muslims going through things, and even with Muslims going through trials in their belief and in their practicing, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all safety. Amin. But on this path to unity, this pathway is paved with thorns, and so you got to remove those thorns, and the thorns, when they're removed, that makes the pathway a little clearer, and so this is one of our objectives, when we're talking about unity, and also understanding that unity will not be uniformity. We won't always be united on every single point, but there is some decorum that we can observe, and to have us a little more unity, or at least not seemingly at each other's necks, which what people call today Akida wars. And we need to learn how to change the language, because if you're calling something a war, then you approach it like a person who's at war. But if you call something a dialogue or discussion, then you have an academic approach, you have an objective approach, and you will have a diplomatic approach to it, once you change the wording. And so tonight's topic, of course, you may know, was spawned by a brother of ours, Imam Yusuf Rios. I know that nobody wanted to mention his name, but it's out there in the open now. The cat's been let out the bag. And so Imam Yusuf Rios, who is part of a trio of Puerto Rican imams with Imam Daniel Hernandez and Imam Wesley LeBron, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve them. They're doing phenomenal work in their respective communities. And, they're also representing the Latino community in the same way that we are representing the Black and Latino Muslim community. And then, and let me say they represent the brothers too, because, we're an extension of hip hop for the Blacks, Puerto Ricans, and the white people too. That's an old school lyric. If you ain't old school, I really can't mess with you anyway. But so Imam Yusuf Rios, who's a good brother, I've had the chance to encounter. He visited my masjid a couple of times. One time he came and I wasn't here. And, I met him in his area, and we actually, if you look online, we had a discussion with myself, him, and brother Hamza Dungeon, who is known as Hamza the Historian, a brother that we've had the pleasure of engaging as well in person. And so we had a dialogue about prison reform, I think was the topic a couple of years ago. So Imam Yusuf Rios is someone that we know. But unfortunately, there's been some things lately that Imam Yusuf is, has been saying, and particularly directed towards us as the Black imams. So you all may be familiar, whoever was able to tune in last night, the Imam Amin, he went and addressed this video that Imam Yusuf did, and he was addressing some things that he considers, a problem in the Muslim Ummah, and it was based on a video that Imam Amin and Dr. Shadi Masri did. May Allah preserve him. One of the most dynamic people I've ever met. Had a chance to meet him. He's a fellow, fellow New Jerseyan. Alhamdulillah. So there was a video that they did, and Imam Yusuf's video was in response to that video, where he kind of mentioned in his video that there was some takfir being made, and he alluded to Imam Amin, this thing about making takfir of people, and takfir means to declare a Muslim as a disbeliever. That's what takfir is, to take a Muslim outside of Islam for a belief or an action, right? And so, and of course, takfir is something that's explicit, and this is some of the stuff that we'll be discussing. And Imam Amin already touched on a lot of this last night. If you were able to watch the broadcast, if you weren't, you should go back. But I just want to give my perspective. So, Imam Yusuf Rios, this is not the first time that he has, made a video and directed it toward us. Someone has sent me a previous, not a video, but he did a post, and he has since taken it down, where he said that the Salafi and Ashari beef on the East Coast is similar to the Tupac and Biggie beef back in the 90s, And so he equated up the discussion that we have and as if we're really beefing. And so the first thing we need to say and declare, this stuff is not beef. We come from backgrounds that real beef is beef, and that's another discussion. But we are Muslims, we all believe that each of the others, blood is, honor, and blood and property is sacred with each other, So we're not trying to violate any of that stuff, So Imam Yusuf's video, and when we're talking about navigating these differences, I think one of the things that we have to discuss is that understanding where these differences, where they emanate from, and how we need to pinpoint. So I just had a few notes. So this is going to be my introduction and my little bit of presentation. They told me I had to come out of what they say, I'm prop mode. I had to come out of prop mode, and I really had to do some talking. So as I watched the video, I watched it twice actually. I took some notes, and I didn't really have time to go back to watch the video with Imam Amin and Dr. Shadi, even though I did watch it live, and I don't recall the first point where Imam Yusuf Rio said that there was open takfir on the Salafis. Open takfir on the Salafis. So this is what he is alluding to with Imam Amin, that and by subsequently us, that we are making open takfir on the Salafis, and this is not true. And so this is where one of the points of clarity need to be made on this road to unity, to understand that identifying something that is kufr and then calling someone a kafir, they're two different things. And I think Imam Amin mentioned this last night. So make a takfir somebody saying, you believe that? You're a kafir. If I say to you, you're a kafir, that is making takfir. But identifying some things that is kufr, and the person to believe it would be a kafir, that's not the same as saying someone directly is a kafir, So that's the first point I think that Imam Yusuf is getting twisted, that this is one of the thorns that, we have to remove, because he is making it more painful than it has to be, because he has misconstrued this concept. So you have never heard me or Imam Amin or Imam Naeem ever say that someone was a kafir. But you have heard us discuss on many occasions about what constitutes kufr, because when we talk about kufr, there is stuff that is clear kufr, right? And these are laid out in the books. We discussed some of these books. We went through these books, like Imam Tahawi's book. He talks about the one who attributes parts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is kufr, and so in having a balance on the way to unity, we've also said that people may not understand these things properly, just giving them the benefit of the doubt. But then, as we'll probably discover later, some of these people are explicitly saying these things. They are explicitly saying some of these things, which is tantamount to kufr, right? And so that's another discussion. So that's the first thing, is that knowing what is kufr, establishing what is kufr, and being clear in it, and then calling someone a kafir, two different things. So, we're supposed to, just like we're supposed to know what tawheed is, we're supposed to know what kufr is, we're supposed to know what shirk is. And if you know it, you know it, And so then Imam Yusuf mentioned, he said, he was saying that Dr. Shadi said before that we should avoid controversy. And then he kind of alluded that this discussion with Imam Amin on that video that he was responding to was controversial, right? And so he basically said in the video that basically Dr. Shadi, may Allah preserve him, should follow his own advice and stay away from these controversial topics. So my question to Imam Yusuf, and I don't know if he'll watch this, and we've already know that he's blocked all of us, I mean, I even a couple of years ago asked him about, you know how you go through your Facebook thing and somebody commented and you be like, man, wait, I thought, and then you look and be like, it says add friend. I've been adding him as a friend. Oh, he deleted me. And I asked him about it. I said, man, you deleted me? And he'll testify to this. He said, I didn't know who to trust, And I'm like, trust, man. We never had no beef. This is Facebook, man. This is not real life, man. This is not, this is just a social media platform. If you thought you couldn't trust me or you thought it was something, we can have a discussion offline anytime, So the question that I have, why is the discussion of Aqidah controversial? Or as Imam Yusuf said, divisive. So he believes that when we are doing these discussions by way of clarification, he said it's divisive, And so I think one of the issues for many of us, and including Imam Yusuf, when we go back to that 90s Salafi da'wah, and we have to understand that coming back after all of that friction and all of that controversy and all of that divisiveness, it may seem divisive when we're making these clarifications. Like I said before, we're in a time now that we are like environmentalists cleaning up massive oil spills, and our people have been ducks that have been in the oil spill. We got to clean them up. And now the people that did the oil spill act like they never did it. You know, that's another thing Imam Yusuf related in his video, that, you know, they kind of quieted down. And the only reason they quieted down because it's too wide open now that their stuff is not, you know, it's not popular. It's not popping no more because there's too much stuff to counter it. There's too much traditional Islam to learn out here. There are too many people who are speaking up and countering some of those false narratives in that Salafi Wahhabi doctrine, right? So why is it divisive when we're having intricate discussions about it? Because we differ? That's the whole thing about unity, is maintaining the unity in spite of your differences. That is what held the Ummah together. You know, that we believe this, we believe this. I don't agree with this. You might be right in this. I might be wrong in this. But we are somehow going to try to be unified as much as possible. You know, and so when we are clarifying these issues 20 years later, and, you know, I've said this before, I blame some of the Sunni imams and stuff who were quiet. And there were only a few that I remember because I used to be with the Salafi Dawah, like entrenched, you know what I mean? And there was only a few voices that I remember hearing. One of them was Imam Amin. Another one was Sheikh Abdullah Sandalani, may Allah preserve him. And another one was Ustad Abdullah, Sheikh Dr. Abdullah Ibn Hamid, you know, who was teaching. And also I remember seeing him in person at Germantown Masjid, you know, and went there. I mean, he went there like, you know, he went there like quiet, respectful, but he had a look on him like, I wish somebody would say something to me. I'm ready, you know. And when I seen him do that, you know, I was like, wow, because, you know, back in the 90s, you went to Germantown Masjid, for those who know, like you had to, you know, it was real rough. The tension was always thick, you know. So, but why is it divisive when we're talking about it now? Why is it divisive when we're taking the time to clarify to our people and teach them and answer their questions and refute and counter some of the false things that are given as belief and attributed to the way of the Salaf? Why is it divisive now when we're just having a discussion? You know, one of the things that he also mentioned, he said that he talked about sectarianism in the world, and he mentioned other countries and about the Arab Spring and some of the things that happened there. And my response to that is, man, we in America. We're a minority group in America, you know, just struggling to be recognized and making Islam, you know, uppermost in the land as much as we can. You know, we don't have those same kind of problems. You know, we have the problems with, you know, with people who have come here and haven't had our best interests at heart, you know, and then this became like the norm for some people, you know. And so we, you know, we in America is a whole different thing. You know what I'm saying? And then he mentioned something about, you know, that as imams and teachers and leaders, we have the responsibility of diplomacy, right? And so, in other words, what I took from what he meant, and of course, if he sees this, he can clarify it, because from what I'm hearing, that he made another video after the one that we're discussing now. So he could clarify. So it's basically he was alluding to, like, leave the Salafis alone. Like, you know, and how a lot of people who don't want to get into these discussions because they become problematic and they become heated, they become energetic. And, you know, and the way we get down, you know, they be enthusiastic, you know what I mean? And that's just how we roll, you know. But at the same time, it's all love. You know, there's no hatred, there's no enmity. But we want to get, you know, this deen is beloved to us, so much so that we're ready to get into these discussions to get down to the bottom of it, right? And so the responsibility of diplomacy that he basically saying Dr. Shadi should have had, I mean, where was the diplomacy before you went live, you know? Where was the diplomacy when you try to make it like we doing like the East Coast, West Coast beef, you know, with these Ashari and Salafi discussions, right? And then he said that a question was posed to Imam Amin about what should be taught in Aqidah. And so I didn't get a chance to pinpoint the part of the video with Dr. Shadi and Imam Amin about what Imam Amin said. But he kind of skipped over that. So there's some things in his video, if you go back and see it, I'm talking about Imam Yusuf Rios, that he kind of glossed over some things. And so then before he really said what was Imam Amin's answer, and Imam Amin, I probably can give his answer when he comes on. Then he said the general public shouldn't be exposed to things that they can't handle. He said that the general public shouldn't be exposed to things that they can't handle. So what he's saying is that these discussions should not be for the general public. And to an extent, I agree. But also, a person who is watching these things online, they're either going to go through two ways. If they see an engagement about something that is above their pay grade, they're either going to watch silently and just try to decipher something, or they're not going to engage in it because they know they can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to give more credit to the general public. They're not as dumb as some people try to make them seem like they're incapable of learning things, right? And so, and then he mentioned briefly, and he kind of glossed over this again. He said that the things and the points made he mentioned Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, and he said that some of his points, and then he says that when discussing all of these things, he said that when Salafis teach these things, he said, yeah, of course, there is possible takfir, right, in the works of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. He said there's possible takfir, but that's not really the thing. And so this is the other part. And then he mentioned a concept about udhr bi jahl, like the ignorance as an excuse, right? And so this is the part where when we talk about diplomacy, because diplomacy also embedded in that is having objectivity, right? So if you're going to have diplomacy, you have to be objective. And then, as from what we're saying, you have to understand that regardless of Ibn Abdul Wahhab and your position on him, it is without a doubt that he made takfir in Massi when taking the law into his own hands, determining the mass of Muslims to be mushriks. They didn't know La ilaha illallah for 600 years. These are in his works. He is saying this. So he made implicit takfir and explicit, that everyone who didn't agree with him, he killed him. He had to get down or lay down minhaj back then. He had to get down or lay down minhaj. And so if you seeing somebody's head getting chopped off or arrow going through their heart, and then they come and tell you, you need to follow these books that we've written, if you're not strong, what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll go with it. And so that's what happened. Like, we have to be honest about what happened during the time of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. He didn't have the authority to go and do the things that he did because they had qadis then, they had judges, they had amirs. He didn't go to any of them. He took it upon himself to say that these Muslims were committing idolatry. And so that's the whole thing about takfir, which is harmful, is to declare a Muslim a kafir on a technicality. Now, if a Muslim commits clear kufr and kufr is known, what kufr is known to be, and a person who knows the rulings of kufr and they say someone is a kafir, that's one thing. But then if you say someone is a kafir or they committed kufr on a technicality and you didn't remove all of the obstacles, any excuses for them, then that's even worse. That's what Ibn Abdul Wahhab did. He killed all of these people that said La ilaha illallah. During this time, there were no polytheists in Mecca. These were Muslims. And that's a whole nother story, right? But then he kind of glossed over about the points in Ibn Abdul Wahhab's books, which some of them are clear, that he makes tasbih, he used weak hadith to make points of Aqidah, which Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah know that you can't do this, and other things that are problematic with that book, that we've discussed in the past, so there's no need to prolong it here. And then he mentioned some of the thing. He mention one of the sheikhs, Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayah, and he was saying that how he really got a lot of flack because of his diplomacy and all of the stuff about the Arab Spring and all that kind of stuff. All right, that's neither here nor there. That also goes to we're in America. It's a different dynamic, right? So then we have another quote from him that he says, immersing the community in points they can't handle. This is what he's saying, that we are immersing the community by having these discussions of Aqidah, that we are immersing the community in points that they can't handle. And so my response to that is that the stuff that we're discussing is what is wajib on the mukallaf. Now Imam Amin, alhamdulillah, may Allah preserve him. He's our shining star. We give him his flowers, right? But in the discussion that we're having with the 3453 family, the people that we deal with, we're not discussing anything like real intricate like that. We're making sure people know their fard ayn. We went through basic books, Risalatu Jamia, Sulam ila Tawfiq, with Safina to Najah, with the to Salik. Some of these are a little more advanced, but we are doing this in a traditional way of learning these books, reading the books, and make sure that people understand, have the proper understanding. We're not we're not going through any volumes of work because we know that our people are not ready for that. We know what our people are ready for. We know they need to be taught. We know they need to be directed. And this is what we're dealing with them on a basic level. Imam Naeem, you can see him online teaching basic books, basic history, nothing too intricate. Me, myself, we completed Recital to Jamia in my community, and we just did Aqidah to Awam. These are books that kids memorize. These are books that kids memorize. So we're not doing nothing really, high level like that because we are low level imams, right? Do you agree? Low level. I'm in the basement, cuz, you know what I'm saying? So he's saying that these things that we're discussing now, I don't know if he's mixing up some of the discussions that are going on X and by other people who are really, tweaking these points, right? But we're not having those major discussions like that with our people. But however, where we are able to discuss things with a little more detail, yes, we take the opportunity to do so within our capacity, And so the stuff this is the thing about when the Ashuri school, not only do you learn what is wajib upon the mukallaf, you have to learn rational judgments first before you can discuss proofs. Right? You have to learn hukm akali, right? You have to learn what is a rational judgment. How do you understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How does your mind work to comprehend Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You learn this very first at the very beginning of the basic books, right? And so on the ground level, on the low level, you have to be a thinker in Islam. And what makes up the mukallaf? The one who has aql, the one who is sane, the one who is Muslim, and the one who the proper message of Islam has reached them, right? And so that's another issue because, some people, dealing with all of this Salafi stuff, the proper message of Islam didn't reach them. That's why they be having confusion, because somebody told them that they can just follow Quran and Sunnah. They themselves can go to the proofs as long as they have a set of Bukhari and a set of Muslim, and then, then they good. And that caused more confusion than anything. And not teaching people how to think. That's one of the first order of businesses when you're in the Ashuri school. You're learning how to use rational judgments, right? You can stop me, man, when you're ready if I'm not going over.
I mean, you're doing a good job. You know what I mean? You're really doing a good job. So, I mean, go for it.
Right.
I'm ready whenever you finish.
Okay, let me finish up, right? So you have to learn how to think rationally before you can engage in proofs. And so any of the books, the small books of Aqidah, the scholars of those books or the authors of those books wrote them a lot of times in poetic form just so you can remember. And then you go back and get the proofs as the person who is from the community, the awam, and so that's the basic level. The basic level is that you do got to have some sense when you're Muslim. This is why you became Muslim in the first place, because it made sense to you. Before anybody mentioned to you an ayah of the Quran, think about for those who converted. Before anybody mentioned to you an ayah of the Quran or hadith, the first thing they told you about was Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he is one without any partners, without any likeness, without any similitude, that he's not a man, he's not a form, he's not in a place, he's not in a location. That made sense to you. And then the Ashari Aqidah just expounds on that even more, right? And so then Imam Yusuf Rio says that we're confusing the community in discussing these issues. And so again, I would say, why is it confusion now when we're following up for a couple of decades of confusion, of so-called refutations, of so-called attacking everybody who was not like them, having whole seminars on personalities, even so much so in the Salafi Dawah, and I was with them, that they would be refuting each other. When there was no voice to oppose them, they started attacking each other, like that cartoon on the island, you know, where it had the two men on there, and they were stuck on the island, and they were so hungry that one of them looked at one as a hot dog, and the other one looked at the other one as a hamburger. And so they started attacking each other because they became so hungry with this stuff, you know, because they were deprived, so they didn't have anything else. Why is it confusion now when we're following up and clarifying some of these points? Some of these intricate issues that they used to discuss, but they didn't know. And they were deluded. For instance, I remember being with the Salafis, Wahhabis, and they used to tell me about the Asharis. They used to say they only believe in 13 attributes. They told me that. They denied that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the throne. But now I know, because you got to do better once you know better. What they was really doing was cutting off access because they want you to follow their interpretation. You know, so then as I learned and left that movement, and many people who were like me who left that movement and got access. You heard Imam Amin mention this about we were denied access. And there was a reason why, because they didn't want us to know these truths, right? And so when we got access, we knew what the other side really was, right? It wasn't that Asharis believed in only 13 attributes. There were 13 necessary attributes for Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why he is Allah, because he has these attributes that are, and he possesses them, and they're unlike anything else in creation. You know, that he exists. He has all power, all will. He is unlike anything. He is al-mukhalafa lil hawadith. He has kidam, he has baqa, all of these things, right? And so and so the confusion came with this Salafi movement, and that the one that he is trying so hard for us to be diplomatic with, you know. And so, and I know Imam Yusuf Rios probably was exposed to this Salafi Dawah because he knows about it. And I'm pretty sure that if he came up in the 90s, like many of us, he was part of it. So he has to really be truthful now and either say that he doesn't want to accept that he's been duped, you know what I mean? Or he has to know that it's really it's a problem with it. That some things we can still be nice to them. We still can engage with them. And, you know, and we give them salams and all of that stuff. We give them the rights that's due to them. But that doesn't mean we don't expose the errors that they've been teaching, which is incorrect. And in some of these issues, it is kufr. We're not saying that they're kuffar, because he tried to say in the beginning that we're making takfir of the whole movement. And no one here or anyone that I've known has ever said that. But what they have done is explain the Salafi movement, explain the problems, explain the flaws, explain the deficiencies, explain the things that are not correct according to the Salaf, you know. So, and then he mentioned Dr. Sherman Jackson wrote a book, and then he mentioned somebody named Father McCarthy. So, did you remember that part in this video? He mentioned
I wasn't, honestly, some of the stuff.
He mentioned a Father McCarthy. So he was like almost saying that whoever this Father McCarthy is like some type of a reference about how to approach these issues. So I don't know. That was crazy. So then he mentioned he mentioned Sheikh Ramadan al-Bouti rahimahullah, and then another scholar he mentioned Al-Hasan al-Ashari. And then he mentioned how that even though he calls it qualms with Ibn Abdul Wahhab, or how they differed with Ibn Taymiyyah, he says, they didn't make takfir of them, right? And he said the issue that they had with Ibn Abdul Wahhab, it was more with him than with Ibn Taymiyyah, and so that's some of the line of reason that they use. It's really Ibn Abdul Wahhab because of the extremities he went to, but we don't really have, the problem is not really with Ibn Taymiyyah, right? And then he said, for instance, he said that Subki's, he said Tajuddin, Taqiyuddin of Subki, I think that's the one who wrote, yes. His criticism of Ibn Taymiyyah, he called it controversy. So, if I'm not mistaken, didn't the Subkis live during this time, or right after his time? So the criticism comes from somebody from your era is way more valid than someone who's coming later. They were there, right? And so the question to this, and we often ask the Salafis, and I was having this discussion with some brothers earlier, what is the infatuation with Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Abdul Wahhab? Why is it that Salafis and Wahhabis are so hell-bent on trying to validate them when both of them are controversial and both of them have errors? Why scholars criticize them? It just wasn't because how they try to say during Ibn Taymiyyah's time, the scholars hated on him and they conspired to throw him in jail because they were jealous of him. No, they looked at his works and they found out that he made these issues in Aqidah. He made these issues in fiqh. And even in the Hanbali school, that they have identified where over 60 matters where he went against ijma. And so when you understand the concept of ijma and following the school, that if you are on the level of the school, you're not supposed to go outside of the school. So Ibn Taymiyyah, he was in his school, according to the Hanabila, the Fudala min al-Hanabila, that he was a mujtahid muqayyid. I heard this from one of my teachers. He was a mujtahid muqayyid, means that he was restricted, which means that in the Hanbali school, at his level, his only authority was to relate what came before in the school, what came before him. And so if you go trace it back, when we talk about unity and when we're removing these thorns, we got to go see what these thorns cause harm. During the time of Ibn Abdul Wahhab, even in his own writings, when people were refuting him, he preferred the writings of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim over over everyone else, including the relied upon scholars in the Hanbali school, right? And so when we talk about ijtihad, there's levels of it. He was a mujtahid muqayyid. He was restricted in the madhab, meaning that he was supposed to go was already been established in the madhab, right? But then there's mujtahid mutlaq, the absolute mujtahid, one who I think in the Hanabila is Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, right? And they don't give him the credit, well, not the Hanbalis, these people who have this concept of being atheries, where they select and choose. One of the problems we have in today and prevents us from having unity is picking and choosing what you want to make your point and not following the tradition of being trained in the school. That's one of the biggest problems that we have. So you have people picking and choosing what they want. And so what is the big infatuation with Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Abdul Wahhab, right? And then all of those who follow them. Because, and as true Hanbalis will tell you, they are not the major figures in the Hanbali school that Salafis make them out to be. They're not, And the difference now, people who are considered a true Salafi or authentic Salafi, a real Salafi, they have to mention Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim. They have to, and Ibn Abdul Wahhab. But a person who follows the Salaf and follow one of the four Sunni schools, they can follow the Salaf and never mention them at all. Never mention them at all. And so that's something to consider. The infatuation is because Ibn Abdul Wahhab was infatuated with the writings of Ibn Taymiyyah, right? And so if during your time, if you're killing everybody, you just declare them mushriks and polytheists and idol worshippers, and then you come back and the writings that you have that you've taken from Ibn Taymiyyah because you were infatuated with him, and you make this like the unwritten law, then what else people gonna follow? You know, that's just like you know, I remember in the movie Hoodlum, when Dutch Schultz was killing everybody, he said Dutch Schultz writes law in Harlem. You remember that scene? You might not remember that scene. I might be off the topic, but that's okay. All right. But the concept is whoever has the authority writes the law. If you kill everybody during your time and brand them as mushriks, then you write the law. That doesn't mean the law is legit. You know what I'm saying? So then he said, Imam Yusuf Rios mentioned about having relevancy in Aqidah. So what he was saying, he mentioned the term wajib al-waqt, you know, the obligation of the times that we're living in and discussing current, you know, issues in Aqidah to help us. And so what he meant by is that these things of discussing these old issues are not relevant, you know, to our times. But if we don't discuss the old issues that scholars have discussed in detail, we have to bring them into a new light and a new interpretation according to the times that we're living in. So he's saying that we shouldn't be discussing these things, that we should be discussing new things, right? And then he mentioned, he said that there's a big mistake to equate the Salafi da'wah with being mujassima. And he said, even though some may have that problem, he says a big mistake to equate the Salafi da'wah as being from the mujassima, right? He said, even though some may have that problem. And this is a point where he, when you are a person who picks and chooses and not having a proper training, you make these blunders. So then he mentioned a statement, Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qaywarani, that Imam Naim mentioned earlier, is one of the scholars, one of the great Maliki scholars. He has a book that's called the Risala. And he mentioned this, and that Imam Ibn Abi Zayd has a statement in there that he says that Allah istawa al-arsh bi-dhatihi, or fawqa al-arshihi bi-dhatihi, right? And so he's saying in that book that Ibn Abi Zayd says that Allah is above his throne bi-dhatihi in his essence. And so he's basically saying, without understanding the explanation of it through Maliki scholars, because he claims that he's a Maliki and he went to Al-Azhar, he's saying that Ibn Abi Zayd made this statement, why ain't he, and that no one could declare him a kafir, right? But then what he left out, he was trying to imply that he made this statement of saying that Allah is above the throne in his essence, which is incorrect. And then there's in the explanations of Ibn Abi Zayd, the relied upon explanation, they saying that this is not the understanding that was meant by it. And I talked to one Maliki brother. He said, first of all, that statement in the manuscripts, there's a number of statements, you know, so some people might put one in one book and another in another one. But he said that in the statement, and the statement was actually Ibn Abi Zayd said, I have the statement right here, that he said the statement is وَأَنَّهُ فَوْقَهُ arshihi majid bidhatihi, right? And so the meaning of it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the fawq is related to majid, right? And so there's another explanation to that I don't really want to take too much time. But in other words, that the meaning that he meant is that it meant like his power, his dominance, his authority, his sovereignty, right, over the throne, not as in a place and a location, right? And I'm sure that the Malikis can agree with me that that is the opinion of the Maliki school, because the Malikis are Asharis, that they don't believe. So he tried to say that he made this statement of Allah, like insinuating that Allah is literally above the throne, because this is what these Salafis believe, right? Which is different from the Hanabila, right? That's a whole nother discussion. We already discussed that. And so he tried to say, well, nobody made takfir of him. And he was saying how some other scholars said, that they wish he wouldn't have said that. But the explanation, the sharh of his risala explains it very well. And one of our teachers, Sheikh Rami Noor from Taba Institute, has a perfect explanation on this, right? And so it was not diplomatic of Imam Yusuf to do this, to try to make that connection, like that he made like a statement that would be, that we don't believe as Asharis, and try to flip it, right? And so this is another thing. I'm coming to the end, Imam. I don't want to take up too much time, right? But after this, I'm going back to propping. Right? He said that one of the things is confusing Mujassima with the Salafi Da'wah. And he says that this shows that we don't have a good grasp of Aqidah if we're doing this. He says that we're confusing the Salafi Da'wah as being people who are Mujassima and Mushabbiha, right? He is saying that we don't have a good understanding of Aqidah. And so now the question I have to this is that how about when major figures in the Salafi Da'wah, they themselves are doing tashbih? And so in the Salafi Da'wah, certain names that you can't get around. Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim, Ibn Abdul Wahhab, in modern times, Ibn Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, Al-Albani, Fawzan, right? All of these names that any person who's worth their weight in Salafiyah, they got to know these names, right? And so here we mentioned Ibn Qudama. And so Ibn Qudama mentions about a person, talks about Yad for Allah. He said that anybody that says it's like a tool or an instrument, then they have committed tashbih, right? Ibn Qudama in the Hanbali school is a mujtahid mutlaq. He's at the top rank, right? And in the school, he's more relied upon than Ibn Taymiyyah. Am I lying? If I'm lying, I'm dying, right? Am I lying, Imam Amin? Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, right? He is more relied upon in the Hanbali school than Ibn
You're not
Taymiyyah.
lying, but when those guys with the polyester pants come get you, don't call me.
That's all right. Listen, you know what I'm doing, right? Who do you think you're talking to, huh? So now here he said that the person who does this, that said that yad means an instrument or a tool, right? That they have committed tashbih. And to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like his creation is kufr. That doesn't mean you're saying the person is a kafir unless they believe that explicitly. So make the distinction. But now we have Ibn Uthaymeen, his explanation of Sahih Bukhari in the book of Tawheed. He says that yad means a tool or an instrument. And so this goes back when we unpacking all of this stuff. So, Salafis, they'll say that Allah has a yad, but it's not like our hand, right? And so they think that they can say after that, Laysa kamithlihi shay, or they say that the matter befits his majesty. But they're saying that because Ibn Uthaymeen's understanding, you go back and look at it, not you all, but they can go back and look at it, that he says that yad means a tool or an instrument. So what they understand from it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he mentions yad, is unlike our hand, but they still believe that it's a tool or an instrument. So they're giving some type of form or substance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's just not like ours. And I don't want to go into the whole thing about, that stuff is being kufr, and so no one is blanket saying a blanket statement about the Salafis being making takfir them as Imam Yusuf Rios said that we're doing, but identifying what is kufr, because we have to safeguard our iman. That's one of our responsibilities, right? And then he mentioned, talking about how we having these discussions, how we be diplomatic, and then he says he mentioned Sheikh Ramadan Al-Bouti, rahimahullah, and then he mentioned something. He said And then he mentioned Sheikh Saeed Al-Fawda, one of the leading scholars of today, right, in Ilm al-Kalam. He said, I don't care what Saeed Al-Fawda says, right? I said, I don't care what he says. And so my response to that, why wouldn't you care if he's saying, if you're saying that it is wajib al-waqt and, you know, the obligation of dealing with Aqeedah in modern times, this is a modern scholar who is writing modern works and dealing with these issues, right? Why wouldn't you care what he says? You know, when he wrote a book that's called The Palmyran Creed, right? Then we read this book. Then we go through this book. Then you explain this book, Imam Amin. And if anybody had any questions they didn't understand,
cover to cover.
Cover to cover.
Nuts.
Anybody had any questions that didn't understand, they was free to open. And you know, if you know Imam Amin, that he takes this time painstakingly making sure that he explains. And one of his favorite sayings, y'all know, say it together.
Is it clear?
Follow? Yeah. Do you follow? But he means it that to make sure you understand the stuff that he's teaching you, not just telling you, not just selecting you, cover to cover, right here online, that can be accessed, right? So why wouldn't you, Imam Yusuf, take what Sheikh Saeed Al-Fawda is writing about contemporarily and pointing out the errors of Ibn Taymiyyah? Why wouldn't you, you know, because other scholars didn't make takfir Ibn Taymiyyah or they didn't criticize him, when you know yourself that Ibn Taymiyyah, at the very least, he's a controversial figure. And if some of the Hanabila had criticized him, at one point he makes a point and then he contradicts it right in the same volume sometimes. And that's all people are highlighting, because for 20 or something years, all we hear was Sheikh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah. How he refuted everybody. How he made takfir of Ibn Arabi. That if you ask a Salafi right now, when they don't know any context, if you mention Ibn Arabi, oh, he's a kafir. I heard Salafis say this out of their mouths. So who is not careful in takfir? Who really is not careful? Right? And so, and then he mentioned, as I come to an end, I know I took a lot of time, but you know, you won't get this out of me too much, so you better enjoy it. So he said, and then he mentioned about unity, and then he mentioned two issues. He said that a young man had called him, and then he mentioned about how this stuff is not relevant, that, you know, why we ain't applying this to the people of darkness. Then he mentioned a book by Sheikh Ramadan Al-Bouti, right? And it's translated by one of our brothers, Abdullah Suraka. And the name of the book he mentioned is Capital Yakiniyat or something like that. And he said that it was translated. And so I found the book. It was on Amazon on Kindle. And it's called The Greatest Universal Sureties, right? And so he tried to say that Sheikh Ramadan Al-Bouti was saying in the book how we shouldn't be discussing this. But the book is actually a refutation of someone who had these bad ideas about Islam and rationale and stuff, and he's refuting them in the book. And so, of course, that's a scholarly level. You know, Sheikh Ramadan Al-Bouti was the one who, you know, if we talk about scholars talking to each other, he went at Nasruddin al-Albani and basically busted his head open, you know. But Salafis tell another story, you know, and that's another thing, right? Since you want to try to protect the Salafi dawah from being criticized and their mistakes pointed out, which they had a 20-year run, and now it's at an end. Now we coming up, we bringing up the rear, we're the problem, right? And discussing these issues, making sure our people understand where they've been duped, where they've been bamboozled, where they've been led astray, where they've been run amok, where they've been had. And I know because I was one of them. I was one of those people, right? And so then he mentioned about a young man having doubts, not knowing what the Trinity and what the true thing is, Tawheed. And he was saying, like, these are the issues that we need to be dealing with. And then he mentioned he took a shot at Philadelphia. You know, he was saying about, you know, how the murder rate is over here. So two things. First of all, when you are studying Ashari Aqidah, the principles of it are teaching you these things so that you can be firm on it. the first order of business, what is wajib upon a mukallaf, is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is possible, what is impossible, and what is necessary about him, right? That's the first order of business. Look at all of the basic Ashari books, and there's a curriculum that leads you up to ilm kalam. And so he mentioned like ilm kalam is not necessary, but everybody's not discussing that. Everybody's not discussing that. Now, there are people who are qualified to do it. That's not us. We are dealing with our people on the ground level, right? We are dealing with our people on the ground level, making sure they understand their deen. And then the thing about the shot about Philadelphia Muslims, I will put my life on it, that those Muslims in Philadelphia who are doing this killing and all of this stuff, not one of them are Ashari. Not one. And none of them coming out of Ashari or Maturidi camps. Nah, man, because that was a low blow. And you want, we know because we live
with
here.
grease now, boy. You are cooking with grease.
Nah, man, because this is like, leave us alone, man. Like, really, leave us alone, man. We are trying to teach our people, sacrificing, doing what we do. We're not bothering nobody. But if you come for us, man, then be ready, And then we can do it in a unified manner. We can do it with love, but we're talking discussion. There are no Aqidah wars. Because first you have to know Aqidah. Any of those people that's shooting other Muslims, they don't come in from no Ashari and Maturidi communities. Y'all know what community they're coming from. Because they have a concept that everybody else that's not like them or don't go to their masjids are deviants, which is a code word for disbeliever. They just don't make takfir like they used to do during the Ibn Abdul Wahhab's time. They just call you an innovator. They use a synonym now. But they still treat you like you're a disbeliever or treat you that the disbeliever has more right than you. As Ibn Abdul Wahhab said that the Christians are more firm in their kufr than the Muslims are in their tawheed or something like that. He said that they know that kufr better than we know tawheed, the general masses. In his own writings, you can find it. And so I say to Imam Yusuf Rios, in finishing, that, we can have the discussion. We already kind of knew that you wouldn't come publicly to do it, but we can do it in private. We have each other's numbers. You could have called any issues that you have with us. We could have discussed this. And you or anybody else know that we're open. We'll travel and have discussions in private like we've done with other people.
Hey, Imam.
Say it again.
How long ago was it that you and Imam Amin seen him?
This is Sheikh Yahya wrote his father's janazah, rahimahullah. Wasn't that the last time we seen him? And it was cordial. I even rode in the car with him and Imam Daniel. We was good, man. And my apologies to Imam Daniel because I didn't know who he was. And that was, I didn't treat him like he was like nobody. But
pause that 1 second. I don't want to jump in. Just keep going because you want to roll. And
I'm about done, but go ahead.
You heard what he just said? I was riding in the car with them. He was sitting next to me. You been at this stuff, Ak. And I told Imam Faheem, I said, look at his eyes, Ak. He's hoping there don't be no smoke. And I went, and Imam Faheem, I hugged him. I was like, come on, Ak, stop. Knock it off. We don't do that. Right? That's deep. He didn't tell that whole story. Right? Imam Faheem was right. I said, look at his eyes. He think it's going to be some smoke.
Yeah.
I went up to him and hugged him. I'm like, come on, stop it. Knock it off. Yeah. Come on next to me.
The same.
And he was sitting right next to me to show more love. He's sitting next to me. They had him sitting on the floor. I'm like, yo, man, bring Yusuf up. Like, right or wrong.
Right.
They had their special seating. We pulled him up to the special seating. Imam Faheem rode with him. Think about, you talking about unity? That's how you get unity. That's brotherhood. But we bad dudes. Look at our behavior that's behind the scenes. It ain't on Facebook. This is how we treat you. And that's what you do to us. I mean, that's just, I don't want to interrupt,
Yeah.
but I forgot all about you rolling the car with him.
Yeah.
Right? But that's to show you how we are. If we was having some ill intent, would he get in the car with two of them and one of him when I'm there? Absolutely not. Well, he's from Camden, he tough guy, he might. But no, that ain't even on our mind. That ain't nowhere near on our mind. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry for jumping
And
in.
yeah, and just to end with that
point.
Yeah, and just to end with that, that's never on our mind. Our whole thing is about clarification and teaching and countering false narratives, you know, and we working for our people. You know, the people that we work for, we live with them. We ride with them. And so they know us, you know what I mean? So I do apologize if I took up too much time because we're a little over the hour. But while I'm here, just another reminder, you know, to drop that bread, you know what I mean? Let's get that. You know what I mean? This is the things we do, you know, to take this time out to make sure that our people are covered and whoever listens, you know. So it's not just, you know, 3453 family. Our concern is Black and Latino Muslims and just people who have been, you know, downtrodden and all of these things. So I hope you all got something out of that because it'll be a long time before you see that kind of thing from me. So we ask, so my advice to Imam Yusuf, you know, if you won't come on, then we can have a discussion in private. Let's sit down and for the sake of brotherhood and unity that you're saying that we should have on this road, there's going to be thorns. As we step on them, as we remove them, you know, let's stick together, you know. But part of that is a painstaking task that we have to undertake. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq. Amin.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I want to thank my fellow imams who never betrayed a brotherhood we have. Really, like, I really appreciate y'all. That because I may appear to be the most vocal, as we can see, I'm not. You know what I mean? Imam Faheem got some windpipes over there, right? But that's just behind the scenes. You know what I mean? The real dude let the other guy go out front, but the real dude, you know, see, that's how he is. You know, the real dude is always them light-skinned dudes, actually no brown, right? But so I just want to say that. But more to the topic, I want to give some things that I would actually like to see happen in terms of navigating differences and a path to unity. I really want to deal with that. So I just wrote down some points. So I see, you know me, I can get long-winded and be all over the place, right? So I wrote down what I wanted to say. And there's a couple points. If we're going to navigate our differences, that's point number one. We have to realize we got differences. Stop trying to act like we're the same. I'm going to say this loud and clear. I'm not hesitating what I'm going to say. The Ash'aris, Maturidis, and the Hanabila that follow the real Hanbali creed are not the same as the Salafi and Wahhabis. They're not the same. They don't believe the same thing. Can y'all hear me now or no? Am I clear? Right? So let me go back since my mic was muffled. Navigating differences. Number one, we have to realize we differ. That's real. One of the most disingenuous things that I think people do who attack us as Ash'aris is they act like we're the same. We're not the same. Period. That's real. All you're gonna do is listen to us. We don't believe the same thing. In general, we all claim to be Muslim, but specifically, we have the stark differences between us. We're not the same. We don't believe the same thing. That's real. So let's stop acting like we're this unified in belief and practice. We're not. We don't believe the same thing at all. Does everyone understand and recognize that yet? And I'm not saying you like it or not, but you do realize we don't believe the same thing, right? That's a question. Please answer me. Y'all do realize the Ash'aris, Maturidis, we say Fudala, Min al-Hanabila, and the Wahhabiyya, Salafis, we don't believe the same thing at all. So if that's what you mean unity, forget about it. It's never going to happen. If you think that necessitates unity, that we're going to believe the same thing, forget about it. You're asking for the mustahil, right? You're asking for the impossible. It's not going to happen. So forget that. So that's not going to be our unity. We're not going to believe the same thing. I don't expect them, if they truly believe their convictions, to compromise that unless they change their conviction. And I'm quite sure they don't expect us as Ash'ari to change our belief to their belief. If they got another thing coming, it ain't happening, right? So let's stop that stuff. So number one, we got differences. Since we understand we got differences, let's learn what those differences are. Because if we know we got differences, we learn them, we understand them, and then once we understand them, we know how to deal with them between ourselves, right? But if we don't know what our differences are, we don't really understand them, they're being mixed in together, then this is a problem this is fitna. Listen, I have family relatives. They are Christians. I'm a Muslim. We are family. We visit each other, we talk, we interact, we support each other. But it's well known, when my kids go to their house, hey, that's Amin's kids. They are Muslim. Respect their Islam. Now, sometimes I got some real Baptists in my family that would disrespect my children and me because of their Baptist ideology. Oh, may Jesus help them. And I remember, I'm going to show you my family. This is the best we're going to get in unity. I was in prison, if I remember. I think I was. Yeah, I was, because it was only my son. My son was with my family. He's Muslim. He was young. And one of my sisters wanted to feed him a regular hot dog, not halal. My brother, who is not Muslim, said, you bet not feed him that. And my sister was like, it's a hot dog. He said, you know he's a Muslim. And you know his father wouldn't appreciate that. Don't feed him no haram food. That was my brother, who's not a Muslim. Respect. And this happened in my own family, right? It's Christmas. My kids ain't celebrating. And they could go over the house and they won't do that. You're a Muslim, right? And my non-Muslim family will say that to them. It's a respect, right? We're different. We understand we're different, but there's a level of respect, right? So we understand and we can have that discussion. I'm saying that because if we got that clear, there's no ambiguity, right? So let me give you an example. Just to talk about the issue. You got Wahhabi people who go to Azhar. They have Wahhabi convictions, Wahhabi leanings. They go to Azhar, they get a degree, they graduate, or they study in the circles of Azhar, and then they go out with their Wahhabi creed that they didn't learn in Azhar, their Wahhabi positions that they didn't learn in Azhar, and act like, I'm Azhari. But you're spreading Wahhabi belief, bro. That's dishonesty. You know in Azhar they don't teach that. You know that's not acceptable. Why would you do that? Just say, I went to Azhar, but I disagree with their belief, and here's my belief. At least you're being fair, right? I did. I went to Azhar to get me a degree, maybe to get me a job. Maybe they was good in fiqh or Arabic language or whatever, but their aqidah, I don't agree with it. And this aqidah I'm giving you has nothing to do with Al-Azhar. Wouldn't that be fair and balanced? I'm talking to you, right? So if we're going to have a conference and we're going to talk, don't act like we all got the same belief. We don't. And that's life. Now, we could discuss why, but don't be dishonest. You never hear me acting like I see some Sunnis doing now. So-and-so Salafi. I'm like, that's so dishonest. But they teaching Ash'ari stuff. You know, when the people hear Salafi, they think you Wahhabi. And you just trying to play with, I think that's just so distant. Say you Ash'ari. No, I'm being smart. I'm being diplomatic. No, you're being deceitful. In Hadith, they call that tadlis. And that's a reason not to accept your narrations. You're trying to deceive people. You come in a way that they won't recognize you. But you know if they recognize who you was, they wouldn't accept you as a narrator. So you alter stuff. This is wrong. If I have a problem with Yusuf Riaz, is that. If I have one problem with him that ain't personal, is that stuff. You mix in issues that you know daggone well don't mix. You know that. Just say that's your position. That's how you feel. Okay. That's how you feel. That's fine. Don't try to act like that's how the scholars felt, or their books prove you to be a liar. The books. Just say it as it is. Right? If that's your stuff, that's your stuff. You have a right to feel the way you feel, but you don't have the right to impose your feelings and make it the beliefs of someone else. I think that's criminal. That's the way you feel. That's the way you interpret. That's your business. But don't make that somebody else's position who you know that's not their position. So that's point one. And Muslims have the obligation to know their religion and to know the facts and to know truth as truth and falsehood as falsehood. But if you're mixing issues and confusing Muslims, you're doing them a disservice. That's why I say Wahhabi straight up. I don't hesitate. In the face of Wahhabis, they know me. I don't get around Wahhabis and don't say Wahhabi. And they know it. That's Wahhabi belief. Because you get mad at me say it. But in their books, they say Wahhabi. The Wahhabis. They say the word Wahhabi. Go read their stuff. All you do is read. But they're not telling you all the information. It's a lot of playing games. It's in their books. Right? That wasn't something that we made up. It's in the books. The scholars around the world said Wahhabiyya. And all over the place, way before us. We didn't, in the time of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, that was known as Da'watul Wahhabiyya. That's not, we didn't make that up. That's not something we made up. That existed. So I'm just saying, let's just be clear, right? Let's just be clear. Now, what are the issues that we disagree? Why we disagree? I think you have the right to know that. That shouldn't be in no closet, hidden from the common people, and whoever can lie the best will just deceive the people. We're not Trump and Kamala Harris. We Muslims, right? Like what the heck is this? Let's see who can lie the best, and whoever lies the best will get the vote. No, we Muslim. We're supposed to be truthful, even if it's against ourselves. That's point one. So if we're going to have any unity, and when I say unity, I mean that we're going to cooperate and coexist where we can. To me, that's the best you're going to get with unity. Cooperation and coexisting where possible. Trying not to harm each other and take each other's property in life. I think that's the best we're going to get. If you asking for more than that, you're delusional, because it's not going to happen. Never happen. It ain't going to happen, because we have diametrically opposed beliefs and convictions. But that doesn't mean we can't coexist, and that don't mean we can't cooperate in a collective good. I hope that part, is that part clear for me? Was I explicit? Did everyone follow me in that? That's the best we could do. That's point one. So discuss, understand the actual differences, and see where we can cooperate and coexist when possible. That's the best thing we can do. All this Rodney King stuff, it ain't gonna happen. You're fooling yourself. I'm telling you, you're wasting your time. It ain't gonna happen. And I'm not participating. So you can just hate me, because I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna hold hands with someone who's calling Allah by non-befitting attributes and say we shall overcome. I'm not doing that. Now, so count me out. If you're looking for me to do that, forget about it. It's not happening. And I don't think the other imams are going to do that either. But in good things that we could cooperate, I do that with Christians and Jews and atheists in my community. And you could just go Google Imam Amin Muhammad and see my community work. I'm mixing with everybody for good. We ain't doing religious singing and praying together. We ain't doing all that. But where there's a good, we'll do a good. No problem. I do it every day. Jumu'ah, it was a bunch of non-Muslims in the Masjid seeing how we could cooperate together at Jumu'ah. They came and they listened to the khutbah, they sat and they had dinner. We talked about things we could do in the community, all non-Muslims. It's a common good. I'm definitely not going to say, okay, you bring your agenda in and you bring your agenda and we all going to believe together. We're going to have group prayers. We're going to, no, we ain't doing all that, right? But we can do the good stuff. I think that's all we can ask for, right? That's number one. Number two, I'm trying not to be long, so I hope you just get my point. So get number point one, discuss and understand the actual differences, find means of cooperation and coexisting where possible, right? The second point, be fair in one's research, right? This is extremely important. If you're going to talk about somebody, please be as accurate as possible. Don't just be throwing stuff. If this is the position, this is the position. If it's not, it's not. So it ain't no way to, I'm not going to say something about Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab that he ain't say. I'm not going to do that. What did he say in his books? Where is it at? Is this the evidence? Yes. Did Ibn Taymiyyah say this? Do the Salafis believe this? What type of Salafis believe that? Because all Salafis weren't created equal, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? You got to be fair, right? You got to be fair. What type of Salafi are you talking about? Are you talking about the Madakhila? Are you talking about the Saudi government Salafis? Are you talking about those radical Jama'atul Islamiyya? Are you talking about Al-Qaeda? Are you talking about ISIS? Who are you talking about? And don't mix them. Be straight. I'm talking about these people who believe this, who follow this. Are you talking about those from this place? They're not all the same. They have some similarities, but they're not all the same. And let me give you an example Islamically. There is a book. There are several books in this type. One of them is called Al-Farqu. Excuse me, I'm not the fastest typer. Bain al-Firaq, right? Is written by Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi, right? Abu Mansur Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi. He died in like 429, somewhere around there, in the early 5th century. In this book, Al-Farqu Bayna Firaq, and there are other books, At-Tafsir fi Din, and in the other books, Maqalat al-Islamiyyin by Imam al-Ash'ari. There are different books of this that discuss different groups. If you see these books, they'll mention different groups, Rawafid, right? Or the Rafida, or the Khawarij, or Mu'tazila, Shia. And you're going to see under them, they're going to mention all these different types, right? They don't just say all the Khawarij are the same. They were not all the same. They had different beliefs. There are different types. There were different types of Mu'tazila, different types of Shia. You got to be precise, right? That's fair. So you don't attribute things to people. Let me give you an example. If we look just on the ground, how many of the popular imams from the 80s, the late 80s, let's say the 90s, to now that were hardcore Salafis have been kicked off the minhaj and now have started their own little twists? How many imams how many Salafi students of knowledge can you name like that? They came back from Saudi Arabia, they was pushing a certain hard line. Then they got kicked off the minhaj from Saudi Arabia. Some brother went overseas, Sheikh Fadila to Sheikh Rajulun, this man, so-and-so, he calls to his biyah, he did this, he did that. And then the sheikh over there says he's an innovator, is obligatory to warn against him. Don't pray behind him. And he's Salafi. But he went against, how many we seen that? We can name them all. All these guys, you talking about he changed? No, he didn't. Rabi al-Madkhali, Ubaid al-Jabari kicked him off the minhaj. That's what happened. And now he's Salafi light. But before he was kicked off the minhaj, study his history. And no one would say nothing when they was attacking, making people's blood lawful, all that nonsense, until they got kicked off the minhaj. And go study, they got videos online when they talk about they started rebelling. Go check the names of who the sheikhs that refuted them. So they're not all the same. But now, because he got kicked off by that sheikh, they went to the other sheikh who don't like that sheikh and said, you know what? You know he's an extremist. Oh, I don't follow him. You with me now. Right? It's still Wahhabi, but you're just a different type of Wahhabi now. Y'all follow me? This is facts. And see, the problem with us, especially us, unfortunately, as a community, we don't read, we don't study, we don't learn collectively. So we don't really be realizing, even when people are mentioning names, who they're talking about, right? So be fair. So no, he used to be with Sheikh Muqbil. Then the government got a hold of him. Now he's with Al-Albani. And then this one happened. He was with Sheikh Rabi'. Then he got kicked out. Now he's with this one. It's the same stuff. He graduated from the Medina, so he's referring to these sheikhs, and these other ones who are against the Saudi government are extremists, but they're paid by the government, so they're moderate. This is all the stuff that's going on. So when you talk about them, you got to be honest. At least be fair, because the guy might not be hardcore Salafi. He might be Salafi light. He's still Salafi. He's still Wahhabi. He's not a takfiri. But he still think you're a grave worshiper, right? You got to be fair. Likewise with the Asharis, right? Likewise with the Maturidis, right? And by the way, Sufi is not an Aqidah, since I'm just there. So they say the Sufis, the Asharis, that's stupid. Sufis in creed, most of the Sufis who are Ahl Sunnah are either Ash'ari or Maturidi in Aqidah. Sufi is their spiritual way. Maybe they have a tariqah, maybe they don't. But in creed, they're usually Ash'ari or Maturidi. Or they could be Hanbali, because they were Sufis too. So that's another cat. All that, the Sufis. The Sufis have an Aqidah. They're Ash'ari, Maturidi. Majority of them. Hanbali. They're not Wahhabi. They're not Salafi. And then you got some Salafi Sufis, but we do Tazkiyah, Tasawwuf, same thing, right? So you gotta be fair. Do you understand my point? I'm just saying be fair, right? All right, so that's number 2. Be fair, and when we're talking. Number 3, and this is an important one. The waters have already been muddied, so there must be a period of cleaning up for clarity. The waters have already been muddied. Our whole community, especially in the Black community, has been bombarded with Wahhabi, so-called Salafi ideas for the past 40, 50, 60 years with no challenging. They dirtied the waters. You have to, as Imam Faheem indicated, you have to clean it up. We're in the cleanup period. You don't get to go ahead and destroy and say no reparations. No, 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 no. We demand reparations. And our reparations is that we correct what you corrupted, right? The creed that you corrupted, we have the opportunity to correct it. You can't take that away from us. Just be quiet, you know. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. We got to clear this stuff up. That's only fair. You don't get to corrupt our creed and then let us be quiet. No, no, absolutely not. We have to clean it up. Are we going to leave? Because most of us African American in here. Are we going to leave the white slave master to tell the narrative and we're going to remain quiet, say we free now? Do we do that? No. We start saying, nah, this happened. We got to fix this. We got to fix that. We got to fix this. No, we do. We don't accept. So why you want us to accept? They done got all in the prisons. They done polluted this stuff. All the books they've been polluting. All the masjids are basically Wahhabi. And you want us to be quiet? And just, okay, now we ain't beating you. We ain't whooping you no more. Just remain. Hey, we still getting pulled over. We still getting red line. We're still having stuff. It still exists. We have to keep cleaning the water. So likewise in the creed, we got to clear the water. You got to be fair. And so there's a process of cleaning. How long have you even known these things? You ain't heard this for 20 years, that Sunnis, African American in the public sphere, telling you about the Asharis, telling you about madhabs, telling you about scholars. You ain't had that for 20 years. You know it and I know it. Imam Faheem named 2 people, 3 people. In the entire East Coast, he named 3 people. And this was all in the 2000s. They've been beating us up since the 60s. Like, and supported by a government, but you want us to be quiet. And supported by a government, but you want us to be quiet. Nah, it don't work that way. No, 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 no. Sorry. So that's number 3. Number 4, don't compromise your religious principles to get along. Don't do that. If I got to compromise my principles to get along with you, we're not getting along. I'm not compromising my principles. And I don't ask you to compromise your principles to get along with me. We got to learn to coexist despite our principles. But compromising my principles, acting like the issue ain't the issue, that never solved anything, not even in a marriage. It just lingers and makes it worse. Deal with the issue. Speak how you feel. Say what you say. Right? That's how it is, period. Some of us want to be Rodney King. You go be Rodney King. I'm not doing that. Go be Rodney King. Go be the Muslim Rodney King. That's your business. I ain't even going to bother you. Go do it. I'm not doing that. And whoever's voice is more effective, whoever reaches more people, whoever does, that's what it is. That's Allah's affair, not mine. But don't ask me to compromise my principles like you do. You do it. I'm not doing that, period. And I don't think it's right for you to ask me that. That's what you want to do, go do it. Do your thing. You have a platform just like we do. You can take your money and invest in a platform and do your joint. Because you can't reach people, that's not my fault. That's not Imam Faheem's fault. That's not Imam Naeem's fault. That's your fault. Learn to be a better conveyor. Since you were going to convey. And if your way of conveying Ahl Sunnah is better than ours, do it. And they will be over there listening to you and not us. And you can control the narrative. But if you're not, then we got to do what we got to do. And even if you were, we still going to do what we got to do. So don't compromise your principles. That's for anyone. And I don't suggest no one compromise their principles. Just learn to coexist with others, right? And if I got to compromise my principles to coexist with you, that's a problem in and of itself. That means you really don't respect me. And that ain't going to fly. Number 5. Everything has a context. We are not slaves. We have our own reality as a people. Everything has a context. Listen, I'm speaking for me. I'm speaking for the people that I know that's with us. Our number one problem for us, Islamically, is the Wahhabi Salafi movement, period. Where I live at, no one's worrying about Muslims becoming atheists. No one's worrying about LGBT. That's not our concern as Muslims. Our concern was dividing our communities, which is the Wahhabi Salafi problem. That's where I live. Now, where you live may be different. Then you got to do what you got to do in your area. Maybe you live around a bunch of people who's on college campuses and y'all trying to be like immigrants. Maybe that's the world you live in. I don't live in that world. I live in the hood. I'm around where the damage has been in families and everything. That's where I live. And it ain't changed. It's people that tell people, do not go to Masjid Muhammad. They're Sufis, Ash'aris, grave worshippers, sheikh worshippers. Bro, that's where I live. That's one problem. So context. So when I'm talking from my context. That's what we deal with, right? I live in a town where I'm the only Masjid Muhammad, that is well-known Sunni. There's no politics. There's no underground Salafi movement, no political, no Wahhabi Imam. Is none of that. Sunnis, Ash'ari, Maturidi, and Creed in our Masjid. Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki. That's what exists. No Hanbalis yet. Gotta wait till Nuh come back, right? Right? And Sufis. That's our Masjid. And it's straight, clear, no cut card. That's our reality. That's it. So for us, when we talk from our context, right? Now, you want a hard pill to swallow? For us, we get treated better by the Christians, atheists, and Jews more than we do by Salafi Wahhabis. Now, what do you got to say about that? Let me repeat that. In my environment, we get better treatment from the Christians, the atheists, and the Jews. Even the LGBT community treats us better than the Salafi Wahhabis. And that's a sad commentary, but you won't say nothing about that. They won't even, if I ain't in their face, they won't even salam us. They not coming to pray with us. They ain't doing none of that to this day, right? To this day, they don't step foot in Masjid Muhammad. LGBT community will come and do community work to try to cooperate. I'm just being real. The Jews, the Christians, the atheists, the politicians, you won't catch the Wahhabi Salafi doing that. So that's the reality I live, is a context. Because you go hang out with them and they nice to you, and hey, I don't live in the same environment, sorry. So maybe we just got to understand we're talking from different contexts, right? It's sad. It make you want to cry, but it's real. What can I do? It is what it is. It's life. I can't delude myself to act, because then I haven't in no other way, period. You know how many times I went to the Salafi masjids in my area and tried to work with them, tried to bring some so-called unity, cooperation? They ain't having it, period. That's reality, right? That's real. You know how many times that we've tried to have even our women go work with them, try to do something? No, absolutely not. But we the bad guys. I'm talking from context. Now, maybe somewhere else you can have a party and all y'all get up on the stage and sing knots and nasheeds together. That ain't Atlantic City. That's not the context I live in. And that ain't Camden. Down the street, y'all innovators, people of bid'ah, don't pray there. That's what we deal with. The second issue, since I'm on a roll here, is racism. Ethnic racism. That's the second issue we deal with. Other immigrant Muslims who don't want to be around blacks. That's the second issue. That's a real live issue. So the stuff you're talking about is not my issue. It's not my reality. So I don't have that issue. That's not my problem. No one's talking about becoming an atheist. It's not. That's not my issue. So I can't do what you do. I don't have a bunch of rich people who want to get together and preserve their wealth so they'll sing songs together, share platforms. We don't got that kind of party going on, bro. Sorry. So context. And I want to say something. What I thought was disrespectful, and I know you didn't mean it, talking about my Latino Azhari brother. His suggestion was that we go to the suburbs and ask suburban imams, Caucasian and Arabs, of how we should deal with our issues. Or we go up North Jersey and go to the Council of Imams in New Jersey, which are not ran by black imams and don't have no say-so to settle our issues. Bro, is you kidding? Did you ever figure that we got black leadership, that black imams could have settled their own issues? Why you didn't say go to the black imams around this thing and y'all have a talk? Why you send us to the suburbs? So that the white Arabs or Daisies can settle our problem. Explain that. So what are you saying about black leadership? What are you saying about all these black imams who've been running communities for 40, 50, 60 years? Ignore them and go to the suburbs and let them tell you how it should be. Huh? Say that again? They're the real scholars. Huh? Say that again? So wait a minute. We're going to go to them to settle your issue, but they're not coming to us to help us fight the issue you say we should be dealing with. Well, we got all these problems. We can't count on them for nothing. They come nowhere near our communities. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So we're going to go crawling on our knees because we're too stupid to settle our own issues, but they ain't coming to us to help us with none of those issues. Why would we go to them? For what? Yo, bro, you talking to the wrong person. I ain't that kind of guy. And I know them. And I sit at the table. I may end up on the stage with them and cooperating and coexisting. But they'll tell you, Imam Amin ain't doing that. He'll tell us right to our face that those people you name that they're going to be the sheikhs, they know me very well. And Imam Amin ain't going for that. Absolutely not. So to you, they're a superior race, not to me. They're going to get the same thing you get. If they say the wrong thing, they're going to get the same thing you get. Hey, I'm not like some of these brothers. That's not me. That's not my style. And they will tell you that. You go them and tell them, go tell Imam to stop talking about Ash'ari and Maturidi and Aqidah. Tell them to sit down. They're going to tell you, bro, Imam Amin ain't doing that. I don't know what you're talking about. He's not going to do that. They will tell you that since they're your masters. They're not mine. That's not going to happen. And I think it's disrespectful for you to even suggest it. Now, if you said, go talk to your old imams, go talk to the black imams, those elders who've been struggling for 40, 50 years, they got experience, maybe we might have a conversation. You're going to tell me to go to some people that embraced Islam after me. What are you talking about, man? And I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying the mindset. You got to be kidding me. Ain't nobody doing that. All right, I tried to slow it down. But see, that's insulting to me. I don't know about y'all, but for me, that's extremely insulting. Our masjid has been in the grassroots for 70 years. 70 years. None of them dudes you talked about are 70 years old. What I'm going to tell them to handle our affairs? Come on, bro. Stop. That's disrespectful. You know, y'all black. Y'all don't know what y'all doing. And the Arab guy shouldn't be following the blacks anyway. So he got a problem. Go report. Sorry, I don't accept. Not that. All right. Last point. Ultimately, if we're really going to work together, we got to be men. Because we're the leaders. We got to be men. And a man can talk to another man, can look another man in the eyes and handle his business. Right? And don't give me the aggressive. That's another insult too. We talk the way we talk. You talk the way you talk. We come from different environments. We ain't got to be like you, and you don't got to be like us. We just got to be men, and we get to the table, and we talk. That's it, right? Right? So all that, oh, y'all aggressive. No, you really aggressive. It's just called passive aggressive. It's really aggression. It's just passive. It's passive aggressive. You actually think you so smart and we so stupid that you can play games with our minds. And that's not the case. We actually study too. We actually got chains of narration. We actually got sheikhs. We don't got to put up with that. So you make a video, call us out by name, then when we check you, we the bad guys. But not one of these bootlicking house Negroes, I'm going to be honest, said to you, Astaghfirullah, why did you call that brother's name out? They didn't say that, did they? Not one. But they'll come to us, oh, stop, calm down. And I'm not saying we shouldn't take it easy. But why did you only say it to us? And we weren't the ones who called nobody's name, right? We didn't call nobody's name. We didn't say anything to you. But no, this reminds me of some of you. And I'm going to speak to some of us, and I'll close with this for me. Some of us that's in here with us, they remind me, how many of you saw that movie, The Greatest, the Muhammad Ali movie, the original movie? I told Imam Naeem and Faheem. How many of you saw that movie, The Greatest? Remember that Muhammad Ali movie? I think it was in the 70s. The original movie, not the Will Smith remake.
Yeah, the one that Ali was in.
Yeah, the one Muhammad Ali was really in. Y'all remember that lady in the movie? She used to go to all Muhammad Ali's fights, right? And she was going, and people thought she was like a fan. She'd get first row seats up front. She only went to see Muhammad Ali get knocked out. That's the whole reason she went to the fight. She wanted to see him get knocked out. And when he got knocked out, she was just ecstatic. She was, yes. And they were looking at her like, you at every fight, right? Some of these guys here, be careful of them. They like that. They on with us every day, but they just want to see the day that somebody knock us out, right? They want to see somebody knock us out. And they don't like that we're proud. They don't like that we Sunnis, proud Sunnis, teach. We got our own teachers. We got our own chains of narration. We don't have to put our head down for nobody. They don't like that stuff. And this is something in our context, in our culture. Who that joker, ninja, whatever word he want to, when y'all ain't live, you say it. What do you think he is? Self-hate, inferiority complex. We don't have that problem. That's why we probably say the Black Imams Roundtable. We worked. We put in a lot of time in our life studying, raising our communities. Yo, we ain't not afraid. We different. We not the same. So if you need to bow down and put your head down and scratch your head and smile and dance when it ain't no music, you do that. We ain't doing that. Right? And that's why we do what we do. We're not against anyone. You'll see me all month. Follow me around. You're going to see me mixing with people. You're going to see me sitting with all these people you want us to go bow down to. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to get along. Okay. And they know how I am. And we still get along. You're my brother. We from the same background. Why we can't get along? I can go in the suburbs. I'll get invited. I'll sit on the stage while you in the stands, right? Hoping that you can get in. But you hate me. Why? But you'll go kiss their hand and I'm on the stage with them. You don't say to them, why you got that deviant on the stage? You wouldn't dare say that to them. He got bad manners. Why is he up front? You don't say that. He's boss, that's us. That's disrespectful in itself for us as a people. Stop that stuff. Have all that courage that you have against your black brother. Have that courage when you stand in front of them. No, seriously, you should be dignified, right? Be dignified. The same way you go up against, they're no better than us. They learn just like we learn. They sat at the feet of teachers just like we sat at the feet of teachers. Right? No different. But the fact, because of our mentality, did that black guy really study? We want to know who you study. I can't, all you got to do is go look at the videos. You see me with my teachers, with them, reading entire books. What are you talking about who I study with? That's obvious. Follow me. Right? I've been with the same people. But it's a mindset of self-hate. It's a mindset. And I think that's the biggest thing we got to overcome. And with that, I close because I just think these are real things we got to deal with if we ever want cooperation and coexistence. If we don't deal with that, we're going to be like this. And you might not like it. But that's the way it's going to be. Until everyone is real and we come to the table, fair, honest, it's going to be difference. That's life. So these are ways I believe that we're going to have some form of coexistence and cooperation, right? Other than that, we're going to keep working. And I'm telling you, inshallah, we're just going to get stronger because we're waking people up. So you think that right now that we strong now, you think that we're forced to be reckoned with? You ain't seen nothing. What we got planned, what we're working on, who we're cooperating with, who we're teaching, how we are spreading ijazahs and how we are doing it. Give us 10, 15 more years and give us 20, you're going to see a whole nother level. And that's why we say support us. We working. Don't think we just on the internet arguing. We actually working. We actually unifying communities. We're actually bringing imams together. And those who've been following us, who ain't been just on the internet stealing our material to go on their own stuff and act like they knowledgeable. We've been really working. And we ain't finished. We just getting started. And with your help, it's going to change. It's going to change. Inshallah ta'ala. May Allah give us tawfiq. And I ain't done. I have nothing more to say. It's just get to work. So I'm going to get out of here, brothers. If y'all don't have any else to say, I think we stretched this. But I think it's real important stuff happening. And I actually want to watch to see if this debate proves to be any good, a real debate, that we should have a debate like that. I want to go watch the presidential debate because that's important in our lives too. So I want to be excused if y'all accept, because I'm already.
We accept, Trump supporter.
See, that's slander. Slander.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, man.
Maybe those who want to watch it, we should give them a break and let them go watch it.
Yeah, inshallah. We'll close with that. You know, there were a few questions.
Well, let's take the questions real quick. Can I hit this real quick, Imam Faheem? So
yes.
we don't mind. We're playing games. If something is kufr and someone indulges in it through belief, action, or speech knowingly, that person has become murtad. It's simple. It's simple. Correct me if I'm wrong. It ain't that simple. There could be multiple reasons why someone has a wrong conviction, and it depends what that thing is, the level. It has a lot of details, and that should be left to scholars. We don't deny that the thing may be kufr, but for us applying judgments without, that's supposed to be done in a courtroom, honestly, in an Islamic courtroom, with witnesses, with even Ibn Taymiyyah. He had a trial more than once. They didn't just put him in jail for his beliefs. They gave him a trial. It was fair, not just some individual like you a kafir. They didn't do that. You're an innovator. You deserve to be. No, they didn't do that. He had a trial with the 4 judges of all the schools. I mean, you got to be fair here. But that doesn't mean we're going to accept the idea. But I'm talking about for us to be walking around calling people kafirs without a fair trial, without a fair discovery. That's like going to somebody and say, the cops just pull us over and say, I smell drugs, and lock you up, right? It's like, come on, bro. You ain't even just, I smell drugs. Yeah, that was the car that went by that was full of weed. And my windows was down and the smell got in my car. And now you want to search me? You get my point? Yeah, he did smell weed. Your car do smell like weed because you was sitting at the light next to the guy with your roll down and this dude is blazing. So now you want to take that to search your car. I got probable cause. Come on, bro. I'm just giving you an analogy. There could be details. So we don't just rush and call someone a kafir. You know? That's like, you know, now sometimes I hate it. Weed is legal in my city, recreational. So a brother come up to you, assalamu alaikum, and hug you, and act you smell like a pound of weed. Now the imam's getting on the khutbah. They like, Imam Amin smoking weed. No, that joker gave me a hug. And his hair and everything smelling like weed. And now I smell like weed. And I was on my way to Jumu'ah. Now the rumor goes around, you know, the imam getting high. Right? Come on, bro. if you get my point. And I never done drugs in my life, right? But now the room, every time we see the Imam, he's smelling like weed. Yeah, this one smoking weed, this one smoking weed, this one smoking weed.
Okay, I thought you had to go, man.
All right, I'm just sorry. It's all this
I
weed.
got something I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay, Imam, now hold 1 second. The last one. I can't wait till we get to a place where these conversations are behind us. You got to have them before they get behind us. If you keep avoiding them, they're never going to get behind us. They're just going to stay there. So why don't we just have the conversation, flush it out, have an intelligent talk, deal with the evidences, clarify the differences, and then we're done with it. We've never done that yet. So they ain't going nowhere. Okay, y'all go ahead and handle it. I'm a tune out. Assalamu alaikum. I'll see y'all when? Tomorrow, maybe, inshallah.
Yeah, follow up.
Inshallah.
Wa alaikum salam, Imam.
Alaikum salam to the barakat.
All right, go ahead. You have something, Imam Naeem?
Just real quick. I did write down some stuff, but y'all all basically covered it. I just wanted to mention one thing because sometimes I see stuff different than the way other people see it. And I just want to make it clear, and I'm sure you both already know it, but regardless of the intention of the speaker, like for in this case, right, where Imam Amin is singled out, regardless if he intends or not, was not even thinking about me, I put myself along with him in that. In other words, you're talking about Imam Amin, you talk about me too. I believe the same thing he believes. I'm saying the same thing he's saying. He's one of my main teachers. So whether you intended, you're not even thinking about me or whatever, I put myself in it. So when he's talking about Imam Amin, he's talking about me. And I say that for a few reasons, because a lot of times people think they slick, and I don't know what, I'm not saying that this is the case in this latest issue, but a lot of times people be trying to play divide and conquer. Basically, like, me and you cool. I don't know about your mans. I ain't cool with him. Whatever. Well, me and my mans, we the same. You talking to him, you talking to me. So you got beef with him, you got beef with me too, even though we ain't talking about beef. A lot of times people do that, and so even in the so-called Islamic community, right? And because like I was looking when you first started talking, Imam Faheem, I wasn't blocked. Like I went to the page, I didn't see add friend. It still said friend, right? So maybe he forgot. So if you block it, everybody, you can block me too, right? Because I'm the same, right? So you can just block me too. You don't gotta leave me there, right? So, and because a lot of times I've seen it happen many times. We've seen it happen between us. People will try to pretend, no, I like you, I'm cool, but I just don't like him, right? Try to drive that way. So, we're not going for that. But another thing that even though Imam Amin dealt with it yesterday, I think it's very important to mention again, because he's not the only one who's been saying this. Sometimes somebody will say something, it's not true. Then somebody else will say it as if it's true, right? They're accusing Imam Amin of making takfir. And then they get very vague. They don't define takfir. So the people ain't learning, people ain't studying, people ain't listening. So everybody got a little variation on what takfir is. So takfir is declaring or judging someone to be a non-Muslim, which is different than saying this is Islam and this is not Islam. It's not really a subtle difference. It's a big difference. But we don't study like that. So a lot of us, this is probably all sound the same. And so they're accusing him of making takfir on Muslims, saying Muslims are not Muslim. They have yet to produce one video clip, one Facebook post, name one name of someone that he has called a non-Muslim. He hasn't even called groups of Muslims non-Muslims. He never said the Wahhabis are non-Muslims. He never said that. None of us have said that. But yet they keep repeating. It's like an echo chamber. He be making takfir. He be making takfir. He be making takfir. On who? To say something or a belief is kufr, disbelief, is different than saying someone or them over there are non-Muslims. I hope you'll understand the difference between the two, because that's part of the games they running on you. And that's why you can't never get them to come to the table, because they will be forced to clarify these things. Because of if saying such and such thing, action, or belief is disbelief, is making takfir, then all the scholars made takfir there. Like I'm looking at the Aqidah of Imam Tahawi, and in our publication of it is point number 31. وَمَنْ وَصَفَ اللَّهَ بِمَعْنًا مِنْ مَعَانِي الْبَشَرِ فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. Whoever attributes Allah with an attribute of a human being becomes a disbeliever. That's Imam Tahawi. So if saying that is making takfir, then accuse Imam Tahawi of making takfir too. That, what I just read, that's not takfir. That's not saying so-and-so is a kafir. Well, you might say, what if person A, B, and C says or is guilty of what Imam Tahawi just mentioned? Then he's kafir, right? You can't just say that. That's the step you can't take. That's what Imam Amin just finished saying. Maybe, for example, this is one case. Maybe the person extracted that faulty belief based upon a bad understanding of the Book of Allah. They call them Ahlul Hawa or Ahlul Bid'ah, the people of innovation. They did a bad ijtihad. They did a bad rendering or extraction of the meaning from the Book of Allah and came up with a bad result. So many scholars make excuses for them. And somebody made a comment in here that also is related to this. Somebody said something to the effect that, well, you only got two types of people, Muslims and non-Muslims. No, you got more than that. There's a gray area between the Muslim and the non-Muslim area. And that gray area is called Ahlul Bid'ah, the people who have innovated beliefs. Their beliefs is bad, but it's not to the degree where it renders them non-Muslim. Yeah, they're still Muslim, but they're off-center. In this issue or that issue or those few issues, their belief is off-center and is outside of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Anybody who studies even on a basic level should understand that. Not Muslim kafir. No, that Muslim category has gray areas in that. So, okay, on this one issue right here, he deviated, so he's a kafir. No, it depends on what the issue is. And many times it depends on how he arrived at that opinion or that position. But my main point, getting back to my main point, I don't want to drag it out too much longer. There's this narrative that Imam Amin is making takfir. Anytime you hear that, ask where, bring your proof. Because on that video, someone said, I forgot the exact wording, but someone said, is there proof that he made takfir? And he said, yeah, there's proof, but he didn't present the proof. You just go straight up lie on the man. He makes takfir. Who did he make takfir on? Some people over there. Who? There's proof. Where? You don't show it, right? You just accuse him. of making takfir. And so you have a growing chorus of people saying that. If he actually made takfir on somebody, trust me, they would have had the video clip and they would have had the timestamp and they would have had the day and time, the name of the lecture, the name of the post, whatever. But they're not presenting that because they only want to slander him. They only want to slander him. And I also want to mention, big shout out to Khalil, Lance, and Brother Mukti. They came on the comment. They came, I saw they was on the thread and they defended it. Like, why didn't you just deal with him directly? Why all this? I forgot exactly what they said, but I read it. Sunni Kareem, that makes them the people what they call Ahlul Bid'ah. They have innovative beliefs. Sometimes it depends. This is why it takes study and learning. Everything is not just A or B, black or white. There's levels, there's degrees, there's details. Every issue is not okay. Well, this is not the belief of Ahlul Sunnah, so it must be kufr, right? No, it may be kufr, it may be less than that. So I wanted to highlight that. And like you said, Sunni Kareem, earlier, I wrote down what you said. The listening skills. Listening skills. Sometimes people, they not listening. Sometimes when they just see you, they get triggered. When somebody gets triggered, most of the time they're not hearing and not processing what you said. Sometimes me and you and I, other people just don't like us because it's us. And it doesn't matter what we say, they're going to have a problem with it. Even if we agree with them in what we're talking about, it just can't come from us. So some people are just going to be triggered. And some people misunderstand because they want to misunderstand. They know exactly what's being said. And they acting like that something else is being said. That's actually a straw man argument. To understand a straw man argument, just pretend that you're arguing with someone, right? Then you take something that they never said, never indicated to, and argue against that thing. It's like you're building a straw man. You're fighting that straw man. You're not fighting the man. So you're fighting and arguing against something that this person never said. And this is the case of what's going on. He made takfir. He made takfir. And even after you explain what takfir is and what takfir isn't, right? They're still going to go on. He be making takfir against people. He be making takfir against people. So watch out for that. I think that that's very disingenuous. There's another agenda going on, and I know what it is. But I'm waiting for it to come out because a lot of y'all ain't ready for what it really is. A lot of y'all ain't ready for what it really is. It's obvious. It's right in front of us, but we don't want to believe it because we Muslim and all that kind of stuff. I know exactly what it is, and it's going to come out. And I'll leave it there. Imam Imam Faheem.
Okay, real quick, just because we got about maybe more, we ain't gonna be that long. So yeah, the brother on Imam Yusuf's live, he asked, was there a specific reference? He said, was there a specific reference that Imam Amin or Dr. Shadi made takfir? And he said there was a specific reference, but he didn't put it in the comment, nor did he say it on there. And so that's another point, Imam Yusuf. We would like you to give a specific reference that Imam Amin calls somebody a kafir. And knowing the difference between identifying what is kufr, what leads to kufr, what could be understood as kufr, and actually declaring someone a kafir. They're two different things. So we hope you understand that, and I think you do understand that. So there's a couple of questions I want to attack that they probably can go together. So Abdul Wali on theme, right? He said, if we don't believe the same thing, that implies one or the other is kufr. That's how they feel. But that's not what we imply. We just implied that we don't believe the same thing. And then we identify why we don't believe the same thing. And then we go to the sources as to why we don't believe the same thing. I don't think, we're not saying that it's kufr. We're saying that we don't believe the same thing. That should be simple. Like, it's not in black and white. Just because it's not one thing, is it automatically the other? You know? The other one is saying, so you are saying that Salafis are Christians and Jews, etc. That's how it's taken. No, we're not saying that. We're saying that, we get better treatment from them than Salafis, because Salafis are they actually think that it's better to deal with a Jew or Christian than to deal with us that being upon bid'ah, what they call us, is worse. And they've said it. And I've seen plenty of examples right here at our Masjid where a brother will come, when it's come time to walk past our Masjid, they will go across the street so they can avoid salamming us when it's our right. When Jews and Christians and LGBTQ people give us salams out of honor. People who are non-Muslim gives us salams out of honor, and the brother who has a right to give it to us will avoid it because he thinks we're upon bid'ah. And then go see him into the Christian and non-Muslim restaurant and eat haram meat, pause. So that's one of the issues. So we're not saying that. And if they take it like that, then that's why we need to have these discussions as men, face to face. And that's not even talking about Imam Yusuf. It's talking about those Salafi Wahhabis reading stuff wrong or taking what they want to take or try to make it something out of nothing, And so one brother mentioned that he said he was talking to Imam Amin. He said, Sheikh, have you ever considered ignoring them? Flies cling to feces just as disbelievers cling to falsehood. Everyone has a choice. Yeah, for the most part, we do ignore them. But as you can see, we should ignore them. But if you want to make a public declaration and mention our name, then we have the right to respond publicly. Because we could have did all this in private. We could have got on the phone. And, the first thing is that, because you'll never hear none of us on a live saying stuff about somebody. If I have a problem with what you're saying, and if it's online, I'm going to comment on it, or we're going to have a live together, or if I'm going to see you in person, we're going to discuss it. But if it's online, if it's something that really, that I think I really need to discuss or address, I'm going to be in your comment section. But I've never done a live like that, and I don't ever plan on. Like, if it's that much, then I'll discuss it, or have my reservations and just pass it on. But I'm not pressed to go make a live about somebody I disagree with. If it's that pressing, I'll go talk to them and I'll call them. Well, what's up, man? But if they're saying something about me specifically, or like Imam Naeem said, if you got a problem with either one of them, you got a problem with me too. Don't think I'm the cool one because I'm light skinned. No, I'm gonna be the first one to hook off for you. No, I'm just joking though. Nobody take that. Oh, he calls it violence. He wants to harm the Muslim. No, we're just talking in context. Yeah, you got a problem with Imam Amin and Imam Naeem, you got a problem with me too. And if it's a problem on their part, in their part, then we're gonna check each other. But we don't got that kind of drama. You know what I'm saying? So. And no, we do ignore them for the most part. You don't hear us on no tirade about people going on live. Our whole thing is going to be the same. Let's discuss the issues, man to man. Let the Quran and Sunnah speak. As we say, we follow it. Let the scholars speak. Let the Salaf speak. And we need to have those conversations so they can get out of the way. But we never, to this date, had these conversations. Where we discussing these details, and it can be public or it can be private. But let's be honest, a lot of us, we're on public platforms all the time. Why can't we be a public and stop acting like this is going to confuse people? People have enough sense to know if they can engage in the conversation or not. How many people are going to watch this presidential debate and not know really what's going on, but they can understand, they can observe things, they can read things. Certain things will make sense to them. Some things they may have to Google. That's with anything. But people have enough sense to know that. Stop undermining people who are lay people. They're not just people who are like incapable of understanding information. Even like as Imam Yusuf said, that even if they think they know. So what? Let them think they know it and let them come to their own conclusions, because you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people who listen on here and really grasp the concepts, and they could put in their own language, and that's what one of our goals are, the people that can understand it and put it in their own language, but really know what the concepts are. So for the most part, we don't have time for it. And in the words of Imam Wesley LeBron, I think that's his name. That's one of the 3 PR Imam. Somebody in Dr. Shadi's post where he was saying Imam Yusuf should come live and discuss with Imam Amin, and he suggests some other people. And then somebody asked Imam Wesley LeBron about it. May Allah preserve him. He said, man, I don't have time. You never see me in those discussions. He said, I got time to be doing other stuff that's more important. And he mentioned some things that I remember. And that's our sentiment as well. This is just a platform that we use. But outside of this, we're working, man. We're trying to hold our communities together. We're trying to teach people. We got to heal people. We got to be counselors. We got to be referees. We got to conduct marriages. We got to deal with non-Muslims. We got a lot of stuff that we're doing. This is a platform that we try to speak to the needs of our people and be the voice of what we think our people, who are similar to people who are similar to us, what they're going through. That's all this is, a platform. This is not really a debate platform or going back and forth or arguing, but we still we still like to get it in if necessary. If you want to have a discussion, the link is open. I mean, we even tried our luck with that, and look what happened. Got some dude with some American flag saying he was the Mahdi, so that's not a good thing, But I mean, really, it's about discussion and clarification. We at the point of teaching and clarifying and rebuking things that have been as the norm for a long time with people who had faulty understandings. That's been the default, and that's this default Wahhabis. It's a lot of us, because I was one, so I know how it is. But now, when you have access, you got to do better. So we ask Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala for success. So you have anything else, Imam? I mean, before we conclude?
Yeah, like today, about primarily and responding to him, but he's not the only one who has been taking shots and throwing shade consistently. There's been others.
Let me make a disclaimer since Imam Amin signed back on. I am not going on another hour, man. We was going to sign off, so you might have got your little fix with that thing. If you coming back to do all that, I'm out. I'm telling you right now.
Brother, I just come to close out with y'all.
Nah,
brother, why you gotta be so hostile, brother? That's what I'm talking about. Why is the hostility,
Trump
brother?
This is
supposed to be about unity, brother. Why you come with all that venom, brother?
Yes, thorns on the road, man. The pathway is paved with thorns.
Jeez, man. Yeah. What about my sensitivities?
Go see Ralph Tresvant, man.
Yeah, there are others taking shots and throwing shade as well. And you can almost time it. Like we're having this discussion now. Within the next 12 hours, they're like clockwork. See somebody else talking trash about people that got all this time to be doing the key to wars and all that kind of stuff, right? They're triggered by us. And most of those people who get so offended and unnerved when we speak, you never see them on the other side just as unnerved and triggered. Even the ones who claim they're Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Even the ones who, I don't want to give any more clues, but he's not the only one. He just stepped out there, right? And so keep that. They all got the same talking points, just like them politicians. Imam Amin just finished watching, right? It's like an echo chamber, the same verbiage, same wording, everything, right? He keeps making takfir, right? But can't name one person he called a kafir, right? Or even one whole group of Muslims he called a kafir. He keep making, but it don't matter that they can't produce no evidence. They just gonna keep saying it. And I even heard someone repeating it. It's like, I don't mess with him because he be making takfir against the Salafis. Subhanallah. Right? Just people just repeating things that they heard. So be careful like that. The people slandering his character. They don't care if it's true or not. They know that we so bad that they don't even need to produce evidence. They're just going to keep repeating the same lie, and people are going to foolishly continue to believe that lie. Also, another thing I think you need to watch out for is the phrase ilmul kalam. Ilmul kalam can be used in a few different contexts. In one context, it can be used as a synonym for ilmu aqidah or ilmu tawheed, ilmu kalam. In another context, it can be used as a higher form of theological discussion that common people shouldn't be involved in. A lot of times when these people speak, they take the basic issues of Islam that every Muslim should know about and be firmly rooted in, that's spelled out in basic books like the Aqidah of Imam Tahawi, and they take those issues that are contained in those basic books, and they say, see, they involved in this ilmul kalam, and we need to keep the basic Muslim away from this, and this is too many details, and common Muslims should be involved in this. What? So they misclassify issues of creed, basic issues, then slide it over to advanced ilmul kalam subject. That's another trick you got to watch out for, because they're using this term, and they know better than a lot of us that the term takes on a different shade of meaning based upon the context. So they use these I'll make up a word, vagaries, right? These terms that require definition based upon how you're using it, and then they throw it out there after they already said the common people don't understand nothing. Then they throw out the term to give it a negative connotation, as if that's the only thing it means. Then they say, this is what Imam Amin is doing. He's doing this ilmul kalam, getting the common people mixed up into it. You gotta watch these jokers. You gotta watch these jokers. The basic issues that we're talking about, they say they're not basic, they're advanced. And you shouldn't be talking about it to the common people. So you just got to watch out for that. That's all. I'm done. How was the debate? The little piece you caught?
This is much better.
His boy got smoked on national TV.
No, it's really, this is a sad period for the country as a whole. This is the best America has to offer. SubhanAllah. But it is what it is, Maybe we get some good Muslims that one day will rise up and take leadership in the country. May Allah make it so.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure when you go on YouTube, you're seeing all these presidential advertisements, right? There's one that cracks me up. It begins with Kamala Harris speaking, and she's talking about inflation, how the prices, everything goes up. Then it just stops. And it says, I'm Donald Trump, and I support this message. like in other words, yeah, you're the vice president, and this is the state, right? You just told on yourself. Like, these guys is wild.
But, alhamdulillah. All right, so who's going to the store to close out? I want to thank everyone for just being patient with us going through this. But don't let nobody distract you from learning the correct creed. Don't go to extremes, but make sure you can distinguish between the correct creed in Islam and the bad creed, the false creed. All that other stuff really don't matter, to be honest. At the end of the day, learn your Islam properly. That's it. And don't let somebody make you feel guilty because you want to learn the deen. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that. Like, learn your religion. Know your religion well. Be able to defend your religion. Be able to support your beliefs from the evidence of the Quran and the Sunnah and the statements of the scholars. And don't let nobody mix the issues for you, right? And beware of people who just want you to remain ignorant and in a servant status. Don't do it. If you don't take nothing else from us, take that. Learn your deen. Learn your religion properly. Whatever it takes. If you got to learn through a debate, that's how you got to learn. If you got to learn through the nice guy, Sufi, kiss hands guy, that's how you got to learn. If you got to learn from the guys that's harsh and in their mind and loud, and that's how you got to learn. I don't care how you got to learn. Make sure you learn your religion, right? Make sure you learn your religion. Make sure at the end of the day, you die with the correct belief. That's it. That's the bottom line. Make sure you die with the correct belief. Do your utmost to acquire it, whatever it takes. And that's it. And that's all we're trying to do. We want you to learn your deen. And no one can say that they sat around us and they didn't learn their religion. They weren't learning and gathering stuff. That's just false, right? You sat around us, you increased the knowledge of the deen. And that's all we about. That's what we do. That's our lives. So if you do that, inshallah, you'll be a winner. And the rest of the stuff don't really make a difference at the end of the day. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Question, Imam Amin, trying to double check my terminology. Kufr be an accurate way of describing the process of calling the belief action state as kufr? You can say that, yes. Let me ask a question since you asked that. Maybe because it's not clear. Is everyone clear in general? I'm not talking about in specific. How something can be kufr, but that doesn't necessarily in every case make the one who that came from a kafir as a judgment. Do y'all understand the concept in general?
Say yes so we get out of here.
No, I'm serious, because maybe they don't. Because that's the gas, what you call it? Gaslighting, or what they say. Maybe people don't understand. We want you to understand. So do y'all understand why we say don't walk around calling people kafir just without details? If you understand that, that's the point. And that contradicts. I mean, we don't want you to do that, especially us. Like, come on. We don't have enough knowledge to do that. Seriously, it's dangerous. You can't walk around making blank statements of kufr for people. Right? You can't. You just can't. I remember one of my sheikhs, he gave a judgment in the class that something was kufr and this person was a kafir. The person went to his sheikh and told him, he said, that's not even kufr, let alone you being a kafir. That's not kufr. When that sheikh came to his sheikh, the sheikh said to him, when you become a mufti. Said, no, this is my own teachers. He said, when you become a mufti. And it was so deep, he didn't call him Sheikh so-and-so. He called him by his name without the sheikh part. He said, so-and-so, when you become a mufti. You follow my point? You can't be rushing, man. Don't do that. So, and when they say that about us, that's what's so lie. Like, that's so disingenuous. Just say you don't understand. You can't be walking around calling people kafir without no knowledge. And all of us know we don't know enough, especially be taking people out of Islam without knowing details. But that doesn't mean there's no such thing as kufr. There is such thing as kufr. And there are beliefs that we don't believe. And we cannot believe them, and we don't promote them. But we understand there are details that need to be explored when it comes to specific people. Everyone's case is not the same. Some people don't know how to express. They're trying to say one thing, they mean something else. Some people, they're insane. Some people, they got faulty intellect, that they don't understand concepts, and their brain is just, their mental capacity is not there, right? Some people, they make mistakes. They're trying to interpret things in the wrong way. It's a lot of variables in that. And they deserve to be considered before you put a judgment on somebody. Right? We don't do reckless accusations of kufr. We don't. Or takfir, or saying somebody's a disbeliever. So they can parrot that all they want. That's not real. And anyone who learns know not to do that. So may Allah reward you all. Who's going to take us home?
Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity tonight. We hope that we brought some clarity and we explained it in a way that is the people understand, inshallah ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from us. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.
Fatiha. Barakallahu bikum. Inshallah, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Inshallah.